Hello guys, in today's lesson, I'll be offering you guidelines to answer your English language paper 2. Not only will I be giving you just what your teachers are expecting you to write, I will also be putting you through and guiding you through how to answer the question from question 1 to question 5. How do you answer it? What are your assessment objectives? How do you manage your time, especially for question 2 and question 4? What is the difference between these two? Because most students tend to think that two of them are the same. They are not the same question. So how do you do this? That's what we'll be doing today. Paper 2 has two sources. The first one is a modern text and the second one is a Victorian text. And then you are here to compare and contrast. So, but for your question 1, you'll be just be needing one source. They will give you a line to pick. Make sure you look at the line carefully. Question 1 is a multiple choice question, so you don't need to stress too much. Pick when four true options. So you pick from the options. Make sure you're picking 4 options that are true. Make sure you're able for question 2. Question 2. Remember that this is your first comparison question. This is the first time you are comparing source A and source B together. I want you to pay attention and focus so you could know the difference between question 2 and question 4. So you won't cycle question 4 into question 2. Please do not do that. Question 2 is different. Question 2 is talking about the differences and the similarities between source A and source B. That's what question 2 is talking about. Question 2 is like the differences and the similarities. So you pay attention to your question. Is it talking about the similarities? Is it asking you to write the similarities, or is it asking you to write the differences? So when you pay attention to your question, you synthesize both source A and source B. Once you find out if you're writing about the differences or you're writing about the similarities. So for your question 2, you are to compare. Now, there's usually a general theme that ties both source A and source B together. Find out that general theme that ties both of them together. Once you find out the general theme that ties them together, that is the similarities. Then you go ahead and talk about them. But when you're talking about them, do not make the mistake of talking about source A in paragraph 1 and talking about source B in paragraph 2. No, they are meant to be parallel. You talk about the both of them. You integrate both source A and source B together. Getting one similar point or one different point together. You are to write 2 paragraphs and you have 10 minutes for this question to be awarded 8 marks. So you can't miss it. So once you have compared them, you bring out the differences, or rather the similarities, whatever the question is asking you to do. You bring out a point. Use a P paragraph for your first paragraph. Talk about their similarities or differences. Parallel, side by side. Integrate them together. Integrate your evidence, your explanation together. So that means you're writing 2 evidences, 2 explanations, and then you synthesize them together. That is how then your second paragraph the same. So you're writing 2 paragraphs, 8 marks, 10 minutes. Allocate 5 minutes for each paragraph, and then you're done. Remember to integrate them. You are talking about how the source A and source B, how they are different or how similar they are. Now remember, this is not a technique question. No technique. We're going to get to that when we go to question 3, but this is not a technique question. Just talk about how the 2 sources are different or similar, and you will be awarded 8 marks. Why source A or source B, however? So you can use that to compare. And if you're talking about the 2 texts, you want to talk about their similarities, you could say both source A and source B, blah, 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 blah. So that's how you integrate them. 2 pure paragraphs, you are putting your source A and source B, source A and source B points, source A and source B explanation, source A and source B evidence, source A and source B link. You link them together. No techniques. And then you are done with your question 2. So for your question 3, I really want you to feel at home in this question. Feel at home. Why? Because question 3, paper 2, is the same as question 2, paper 1. Is your language technique question. So it's easy, and that's why I want you to feel at home. Aim to write 3 paragraphs. Aim to write 3 paragraphs. You have to write 3 to 4. 3 to 4 pure paragraphs. If you can write 4, it's fine. Know your terminology, your subject matter terminology. Know your language technique. And for this question, I would also want you to zoom in into the words. Zoom in into the words, give your word analysis. When you're done with your word analysis, then you can now link the whole question together. And you are dealing with just one source. So it's just one source. Out of the 2 sources, it's just one. Just bring out the language technique. They will give you a line. You bring out the language techniques in that line. It's very simple. If you still do not remember, or you can't remember your language technique like metaphor, alliteration, simile, you can go back to my previous video and watch language and structural devices. It's really going to help you with your question 3. So like I said, question 3 is easy peasy. You just need to feel at home in this question. It's one source. You'll be awarded 12 marks, 15 minutes, one source, write 3 to 4 paragraphs, focus on the line in the source that they give you to check, pick your relevant points, don't forget your language analysis, and do not forget to what? Your subject matter. For your question 4, this is your second comparison question. It's the second question where you are comparing. Do not do what lazy students do. Oh, this is question 4. I will just recycle what is in question 2 and recycle it. No, do not recycle your answers. They are not the same. Here you focus on the writer. Focus on what? The writer. Focus on the writer. So here you are asked to give your writer's viewpoint and perspective. And there are some questions you need to ask yourself. So the first question you need to look at is, what did the writer think? What do you think the writer is thinking? You need to be able to connotate, you need to understand the meaning, and then you need to actually be able to get the hidden meaning, hidden secrets about this writer. If you are really, really smart, you have to think like, what is this writer thinking? You need to learn to connotate, to infer. And then we have, what is their purpose? Is it to encourage? Is it to discourage? Is it to entertain you? Is it to persuade you? What is the writer? You can compare the differences and the similarities between the writer's purpose. Maybe the writer of source A is trying to persuade you, the writer of source A is trying to entertain you. You need to be able to tick that. Then, what are they saying indirectly to you? What are they saying that we don't know? What is hidden in that text? You need to be able to connotate that. Then what is their tone? Is their tone sarcastic? Is it sonoric? Is it sarcastic? Is it funny? Is it serious? You need to be able to detect the tone of each text and compare their differences or their similarities. Then you also need to talk about the methods and their language structures, their language techniques and structural devices. Still refer to my video for this. You need to talk about it. You need to compare their structural devices and their language devices. The same goes to the way paper 1 is the same with paper 2. Do not repeat any quotations that you have written in the previous question. No repetition of quotation. Pick new quotations. Pick other structural and language devices to compare. Do not pick what you previously used in question 3. No, new ones. Compare the writer's ideas, the way the writers think, the purpose, the tone. You need to be able to. Question 5 is significant, not just because it carries the highest mark, also because question 5 tests your ability to write persuasively, also to write in an entertaining way. That's why question 5 is really important, significant, and it is relevant. It tests your ability. In fact, I think it actually encompasses all aspects of English. They test your grammar, they test your accuracy, they test your content, and how you can write in an entertaining way. You should be able to anticipate some of these topics because they are relatable and they are being talked about in the society. Topics like is social media good or bad? The climate change, is it doing more harm than good? Are parents too overprotective about their children or not? Topics like that. So they test your ability to be able to write in a persuasive and entertaining way on these debatable topics. Question 5 also tests your ability on your opinions on topical issues. In other words, issues that are debatable in the societies. We all know that for letter writing, you need to talk about the address of the person you're writing to. your salutation, your main point, your counter argument, your conclusion, and then you end with your sincerely or kind regards. And I prefer kind regards because it's better. You end with kind regards, and then you put your name and your surname, and then you're done with letter. For article writing, you need to write your headline, a very catchy headline, and your subheadings, which should be very catchy. It should be so catchy that your viewers can feel it and understand what you're writing. Make use of your alliteration in this. It's very it's going to be very nice. If you can't do that, then you start with your headline, your subheading, your catchy subheading, then you give your point, your main point, your counter argument, you conclude using all your persuasive techniques. For speech, remember, you need to address your audience. So for speech writing, you address your audience. So when you can start with ladies and gentlemen for a general speech. You could also start with fellow students for your peers. You're writing the speech to your peers, start with fellow students. After that, you give your point, you give your counter argument, and then you conclude, and then you thank your audience for listening to you. That's it about speech writing, letter writing, and articles. Another thing, for question 5, we need to be very careful for question 5. Remember that you shouldn't be basic. You don't use basic words like, I'm writing this letter to tell you that social media is bad. That's too basic and too boring. No, you don't start like that. Remember, you have to write in an entertaining way. You need to write persuasively and in an entertaining way. So for you to do that, you need to start. You could use your rhetorical questions to start. You could talk about a simple fact. You can start with a fact, which is very good. You could also start with there's so many other questions that you could use. You could start with facts, you could start with statistics, you could also introduce rhetorical questions. You could even talk about the fact that social media, there are 3 social media right now that are really disturbing and take away our time. Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, you could add that. And then you are beginning to sound entertaining and persuasive. Not that you start with that boring and basic sentence. So you can start with that, and then you take us there. Then you talk about your counter argument, talk about your main point first, then your counter argument. In your counter argument, you could tell us the reason why somebody else, but at the end, you could tell us that nevertheless or however, I would still, your point, you still maintain the fact that social media does more harm than good, and then you are done. Make sure you are persuasive and entertaining. It's very important for persuasive writing. Make sure you are a wordsmith. You need to be a wordsmith to write persuasively. Convincing, emotive language, words that appeal to people's emotions, direct address. All these your persuasive techniques must be attached to question 5. Remember that we've done paper 2 today, and we have done a review on question 1 to question 5. Question 1 is a multiple choice question where you need to just pick 4 statements that are true. And then your question 2 is where you need to talk about source A and source B, whether there are differences or there are similarities simultaneously, parallel at the same time. Your question 3 is your language question where you need to talk about your language techniques, which we have talked about. And your question 4 is also when you talk about source A and source B, another comparison question. But here you are focusing on the writer. What is the writer thinking? What is the tone? What is its purpose? That's what you're focusing on for question 4. You write your 3-4 paragraphs and then you're done. And then you move to your question 5, which carries the highest mark. And a very quick exam tip. My exam tip, or let's say a hack or a secret, is when you're writing your questions, when you get your question, your paper 2, if you know you are not good in managing your time, I will advise you read the text, read the 2 sources. After reading the source, move to your question 5. After your question 5, do question 4, question 3, question 2, thereabouts. Start with question 5 because question 5 carries the highest mark, and it might not be easy for you to rush to question 5 when you are out of time, but you can rush to question 1. So that's one of my exam tips. It's one golden tip that you can use. It will help you. When you start with question 5, the other questions will be very easy to run through. Okay, guys, thank you for listening. See you next time.